All right, we're going to cover the cleaning and disassembly of GP Reeves RotoMeter. First thing we're going to do is start with a Allen wrench. 1/16 is what's required to remove the motor, as well as remove it from the distribution block. So one screw, the two set screws, one on each side, that hold the motor to the pump itself. Once those are loose, you can just simply separate that from the body of the pump. So we want to make sure that we still maintain basically the Lovejoy rubber insulator connector from the motor to the drive. So once that's accomplished, I'm going to go ahead and separate the pump from the block. Same thing, same Allen wrench. We're going to go ahead and loosen the set screws. There's 3 of them that hold this part of it to the block. Once that's done, same thing, we can just separate that. So this block I already had cleaned, but typically if you had material built up, you would remove the pressure sensor, remove the lure lock, and then clean both of those. Typically I use denatured alcohol. Cuts most materials well. So next, I'm gonna take off the top here. I'm just gonna spin this cap off, which gives us access to the coupling, as well as the whole screw part of the pump will come out this side. Next, we're using a 34-36 spanner wrench. We're gonna go ahead and separate the tip from the meter, from the pump itself. Just simply unscrew it once it's loose, and that will expose the stator. As you can see, this was just used this morning actually for distribution, so we're going to clean that. The next is going to be with a 14mm wrench, and the key is it's got to be relatively small, because you got not a lot of clearance between the notch and the actual body. So we'll loosen that and go ahead and take the stator out. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that in some alcohol here to start cleaning that up. So once that's complete, I usually just press down to de-seat the screw and remove the screw from the body. As you can see, there's still material left on here, so I'm going to remove that. This washer is part of the sealing part of it, so we're going to set that aside and clean that. But I want to try to get the material off of the screw as much as possible before I push the screw through the packing. So now we have our seals as well as the screw separated. There is one more seal still left in the bottom here. I typically use a pick. You want to be careful not to damage it, and just get a hold of that lightly and remove it from the cavity, like so. So at this point, you have a completely disassembled body. Typically this is where our material is going to enter the pump. So I'll remove that so that we can clean this. So there we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and set that in some solvent to start the cleaning process on that. This happens to be an adhesive, but it'll be the same process for grease. So I'll start, just get the excess material that was on my O-ring, make sure he's clean. Now the actual other section of the seals here. So, and you want to be careful because you can put that upper section in backwards. So you're going to want, when you reassemble, this seal goes in this orientation with it to the top, with the spring section to the top. This cage actually has a separate one. The 2 mating parts of the seal go together, and it will go together the other way, but there's a little recessed area here for that O-ring to sit in. So if you put it in this way, it will go together, but it doesn't mate properly. So we're going to clean all these parts momentarily. As you can see, that first seal that was still stuck in the bottom of the body has a fair amount of our material on it. So we're gonna just get all those cleaned up real quick here. During this, you want to check the condition of these seals to make sure they're not cracked, deformed, and just make sure they're in good condition. If they're damaged in any way, please contact us and we can provide additional replacement parts if needed. And my goal here is to try to remove as much of any material that I see that's built up in here from each one of the seals. You may be going to reuse this again for the same material where it's not quite as critical, but in the event that you're going to move to a different material, you don't want to cross-contaminate. So as much as possible, remove it. Typically, I would use a light compressed air to blow the material out of the spring inside of the seal. I don't have air available at the moment, but that's a real easy way to keep it clean, to get that out of there. So we'll do the best we can at this time. We'll soak that a little bit more. I'm gonna go to the stator, same thing. A lot of times once I get some solvent ran through this, I'll run some compressed air through it to remove the rest of it, as well as typically I can take a Q-tip depending on the size of the orifice and run it through there. So this one's a pretty tight one, so I'll just use the stick to knock out some of that extra residual material and try not to leave any lint that could possibly clog any of our needle or whatever we're attaching to the lure lock for our dispense. And these seals are exactly the same, so it doesn't matter which one you took from which place, they're identical. So as long as they get back into the assembly in the proper orientation, we should be good. We're going to go ahead and set that seal in with the smooth side facing up. So it's going to look like this in the orientation. Then we'll go ahead and take the cage. We're going to set the other seal in that. Same thing. Remember, the groove side of it's going to be facing out, so we'll snap him in there. So now that will enter the other part into the cage and just press it together. Now the O-ring sets right on that ridge, and that section is complete and ready for assembly. The last thing now is to get the body clean. You can see I've got a fair amount of material still left inside here that we want to remove prior to putting it back into service. As you're doing this, if you see I'm using a pick, it's my preferred tool, but you don't want to scratch off the anodizing. The anodizing does make it so the material doesn't stick to the body, and if that were to be scratched off, you would have excess buildup in those areas. So we'll go ahead and start the reassembly process. So first thing is, from the motor end, you're going to take your first seal. I'm going to apply just a slight amount of lithium grease to that and then drop that in. The spring side is going to be facing the exit side of it. That's our sealing mechanism. So secondly, I will take the other two seals. I'll apply a little bit of grease, always to any of my O-rings as I reassemble, so they're not damaged during the reassembly process. And also on this face right here, just a light amount. Go ahead and drop that. So the cupped side is up because that's going to mate up with our screw section. I'm trying not to mess with the bearing up on the top here. I'm going to apply a little bit of lithium grease to that where it's going to actually meet up with the seal section inside on the top here. So got a little grease there. Now I'm simply just going to slide this down into the housing. I'll take the cap that holds that section in place. I always like to put just a dab of grease on the threads here. So I'll go ahead and reinstall this end cap. That'll hold that whole screw assembly in a permanent position. There is one little hole here on the side. I just put my Allen wrench in there and just make sure it's good and tight there. Not overly tight, just snug. At this time I'm looking, make sure my set screws are back for when I do finally reinstall the motor, that it goes on smoothly. All right, now we're gonna put the stator back on. So I usually put just a dab of grease on the end of the screw, so that, I mean, I did clean this with alcohol so to keep it from being dry as I drive it down in here. Simply slide it into the end, and a little bit of residual and grease is coming out, and I'll tighten it back down. All right, it's bottomed out. 14mm wrench. Tighten it back up, and then we'll go ahead and assemble. Tighten it up, and then again we'll grab our 34-36 spanner wrench and make sure that's good and snug. I'm going to add a little bit of lithium grease to these O-rings as well to make sure they're pliable and they slide into the assembly as easy as possible. All right, we have completely reassembled. I'm just going to put the filler plug back in. Our RotoMeter body. Now we'll go ahead and put it back into the block, as well as reinstall our motor. So the block, the 3 set screws are loose, so we can just go ahead and seat those O-rings in there. Now the nice thing with this design is you can actually set your inlet at any angle 360, so you can turn it anywhere you want it on here, whatever's convenient for the application this is currently being used. I want it coming off this side here, but that's user defined. Go ahead and tighten up the 3 set screws here to the attach the body to the distribution block. And this is all machined aluminum, each and every piece, so I don't go overly tight. I do them just basically good and snug so that they stay in place, because over tightening will deform the material. Distribution block, we'll go ahead and reseat the motor. The small hole here aligns with the pin on the actual body to guarantee matchup. As soon as you go ahead and set this on here, you may have to rotate that to get the fins of the connector to line up, but once you do, you should be able to slide this right into place. There we go. We'll get a little closer. There we go. So now the motor and body have been remated. Go again with your Allen wrench. Same thing on this side. Machined aluminum parts. We don't really want to get over torquey on these set screws. So once those are both snug down, I'll give them just a little bit more, and our process is complete. This unit is ready to be reconnected to the system and put back into service. So if you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us at gpreeves.com.